nothing I wouldn't eat or wouldn't drink or wouldn't try. If the person okayed it, I would eat a human.
Ellen DeGeneres' closest celebrity friend just said that on camera, and she didn't laugh it off.
Just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up! I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
That wasn't a joke. That was a warning shot. And the one person in that room who went completely still, Ellen DeGeneres.
She wore a chef's hat like it was a crown.
But here's what nobody is connecting. What if Ricky Gervais wasn't just roasting Hollywood at the Golden Globes? What if he was exposing Ellen DeGeneres as the most prolific cannibal in entertainment history? Let's start with the moment that changed everything. January 5th, 2020, the Golden Globes. Ricky Gervais takes the stage for the 5th and what he promised would be the final time hosting Hollywood's biggest night. And within the first 3 minutes, he does something that nobody in that room was prepared for.
Just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up! I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
The room went silent. Not the kind of silence that follows a bad joke, the kind of silence that follows an accusation. Because Ricky wasn't performing, he was exposing. And sitting in the front row, camera cutting to her face multiple times throughout the night, was Ellen DeGeneres. Now, most people watching at home thought Ricky was just doing edgy comedy, pushing boundaries, roasting celebrities the way he always does. But if you go back and watch that monologue, knowing what we know now, knowing what's in the Epstein files, knowing what Ellen has been accused of, knowing the pattern that's been emerging across multiple witness testimonies, you start to realize something genuinely chilling. Ricky Gervais wasn't making jokes. He was reading a list.
So I'm going to write my own jokes, right? And I thought, who do I pander to? The 200 richest people in the room, or the 200 million people watching at home?
200 million people watching at home. That was his audience. Not the celebrities, not the studio heads, not Ellen DeGeneres sitting there with her frozen smile. The people who had no idea what was actually happening behind those glamorous closed doors. And what was happening? Well, according to multiple whistleblower accounts that have been circulating since the Epstein files started dropping in January 2026, Ellen DeGeneres wasn't just connected to that world of power, abuse, and ritual. She was allegedly at the very center of something far more disturbing. Something that explains her obsession with youth, her impossible appearance, her decades of control, and the one rumor that keeps surfacing no matter how many times it gets scrubbed from the internet. Cannibalism. Now, before you click away, before you write this off as internet conspiracy theory, I need you to understand something. This isn't coming from one random post on Reddit. This is coming from multiple independent sources, corroborated timelines, documented behavior, congressional testimony about coded language in the Epstein files, and a pattern that once you see it, you cannot unsee. Let's go back to the files. January 30th, 2026. The Department of Justice released over 3 million pages of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein's network. The internet went into full meltdown. Everyone was scanning for names, looking for flight logs, searching for the smoking gun that would finally confirm what so many people had suspected for years. And buried in those files, scattered across emails and communications, investigators found something that made even seasoned prosecutors stop cold.
There was also a lot of language that appears to be coded regarding food. I wanted to let you know the crew really appreciated the pizza. Another email read, "This is better than a Chinese cookie. See attached. Let's go for pizza and grape soda again."
Pizza, pasta, jerky. Words that when read in context didn't mean what they appeared to mean on the surface. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna publicly confirmed that forensic language experts had analyzed these emails and determined they were almost certainly euphemisms for something significantly worse. Coded language involving minors. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna publicly confirmed that the coded phrases in those emails included descriptions involving minors. She stated clearly that the way words like jerky were used had nothing to do with food. Jerky, specifically jerky, references to freezers, insulated bags, urgent delivery, and according to congressional investigators who read the unredacted versions, the word jerky in those files almost certainly did not refer to beef. Now, keep that in your mind as we talk about Ellen, because here's where the story gets genuinely disturbing. Multiple witness accounts, testimonies that have been circulating in investigative circles since 2024 describe Ellen DeGeneres DeGeneres as having a separate kitchen on her property, stainless steel, private entrance, and critically, no security cameras inside.
There was a separate kitchen on her property, stainless steel, private entrance, no security cameras inside. The chef handled the sauces, the garnishes, the staging. But she insisted on doing the hard part herself.
She insisted on doing the hard part herself. Why? According to the same testimony, because it grounded her and made the energy right. What energy? What hard part? And why would one of the wealthiest women in entertainment, someone who could hire anyone to do anything, insist on personally handling food preparation in a kitchen with no cameras?
She wore a chef's hat like it was a crown.
A crown. Not a joke, not a quirky personality trait, a crown. Because according to these accounts, what Ellen was allegedly doing in that kitchen wasn't about hunger. It was about dominance. It was about power. It was about ritual. And the signature dish? Dumplings.
The dumplings were her signature.
All right, so saying that the dumplings were something that she'd created and that inside of the dumplings, the filling was actually...
She watched them eat, and according to the testimony, she didn't just watch casually. She studied their faces, waited for the compliments, smiled when they came. Because here's the alleged genius, the truly sinister architecture of what was happening at those dinner tables.
Once you shared that secret, whatever you believed you'd consumed, you were bound to the group. No one betrays a circle that can destroy.
Once you ate, you were in. You were bound. You couldn't speak out without destroying yourself. And that is allegedly how the most powerful people in Hollywood kept each other silent for decades. Not through NDAs alone, not through legal threats alone, but through shared complicity in something so extreme that speaking out meant destroying yourself along with everyone else now. Think about Ricky Gervais standing on that stage at the Golden Globes. Think about what he said, who he said it to, and how the room reacted.
People would come up and say, what are you going to say about me? I think, why do you care? I only go after their public behaviour.
Why do you care? That's the question. If you have nothing to hide, why does the mere mention of your name from a comedian's mouth make you freeze up like you've just been caught? Because they knew. They knew exactly what Ricky was circling. And they had spent decades making sure nobody on the outside ever figured it out, but Ricky didn't stop there. Go back and watch the 2016 Oscars, not the Golden Globes, the Oscars. Ellen DeGeneres is hosting. And in the middle of her monologue, she does something that at the time seemed like a harmless bit, but now, in the context of everything we know, looks like something else entirely.
Hey, Jeffrey, how are you? How's everybody doing?
Called out Jeffrey by name, Jeffrey, and then immediately pivoted to ordering pizza for the entire room. Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, people who would later be exposed for some of the worst abuse in Hollywood history. All sitting there, all eating, all part of the same circle. Was it a joke? Maybe. Was it a bit? Possibly. Or was it a signal? A public display of the exact same ritual that the whistleblower accounts describe happening in private? And here's where Ellen's closest celebrity friend enters the picture. Chrissy Teigen. For years, one of Ellen's most frequent guests, one of her most visible allies. And in a clip that resurfaced after the Epstein files dropped, Chrissy said something on camera that stopped people cold. Coded language involving minors. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna publicly confirmed that the coded phrases in those emails included descriptions involving minors. She stated clearly that the way words like jerky were used had nothing to do with food. She didn't laugh it off. She didn't backtrack. She doubled down. And when people online started asking why that would be her default joke, why eating human flesh would be the transgressive humor that came out naturally, casually, with a smile, the response from her defenders was always the same. It's just dark Hollywood humor. Celebrities say shocking things for shock value, but here's the question the post-Epstein files world forces us to ask. What if it wasn't a joke? What if the reason it came out so naturally, so comfortably, is because in certain circles, in certain rooms, at certain private dinners, it wasn't shocking at all?
She believed consumption was transformation, that youth could be taken in, that vitality could be absorbed. She talked about ancient rites, about elites throughout history who understood what the masses.
Ancient rites. Elites throughout history. This isn't a new idea. The obsession with consuming youth, with literally ingesting vitality, is one of the oldest power rituals documented in human history. And according to the whistleblowers, this wasn't just folklore to Ellen DeGeneres. This was allegedly practiced. Now, let's talk about something medical, something that connects directly to this theory in a way that's genuinely difficult to dismiss. There's a disease called kuru. It's a fatal neurological condition first documented among the Fore tribe in Papua New Guinea, and it's caused by one thing and one thing only: the consumption of human brain tissue. Its symptoms: tremors, loss of coordination, inappropriate emotional responses. And here's the critical detail: it has a 10 to 30-year incubation period. 10 to 30 years, meaning you could consume human tissue for years, even decades, before the symptoms start to show. And when old footage of Jeffrey Epstein surfaced showing unusual facial movements, unusual jaw patterns, internet investigators started asking whether what they were seeing was consistent with early-stage kuru. Now, I'm not a doctor, I'm not diagnosing anyone, but the fact that people were asking that question, the fact that it felt worth asking, tells you something about the world we're living in and what the Epstein files have done to public trust. And it brings us to the question that nobody in mainstream media is willing to ask out loud. Ellen DeGeneres is now in her mid-60s. She's been on television for over 2 decades. And when you place images of her from 2003 side by side with images from 2023, something feels genuinely strange. Not in the way that a facelift feels strange, not in the way that Botox or fillers feel strange. Something else, something harder to define. A freshness, a vitality, an almost unnatural preservation.
The fear of these literally demonic human beings that are running the world and don't give a fuck about human lives and enjoy watching people being tortured, enjoy watching people killed, participating in ritual sacrifice of people.
Ritual sacrifice. Demonic human beings. Those are the words Joe Rogan used after reading the Epstein files. A man who has sat across from presidents, billionaires, scientists, and those were the words he chose. Now, what does all of this have to do with Ricky Gervais? Everything. Because Ricky wasn't just calling out the system. He was calling out specific people. And if you go back and watch every single Golden Globes monologue he did, watch The Room, watch The Faces, watch who laughs and who goes completely still, you start to see a pattern. Ellen DeGeneres went still multiple times. And the internet noticed, but the most damning piece of evidence, the thing that connects Ricky's warnings to Ellen's alleged behavior, comes from what happened behind the scenes on her own show. According to witness testimony, Ellen didn't just prepare her alleged signature dish in private. She brought it to work.
She even brought the dumplings to a few tapings of her show. Homemade, she said with that psychopathic grin. Audience members lined up for samples. Crew grabbed them between segments.
Think about that. If this account is true, Ellen DeGeneres was allegedly serving what whistleblowers claim was human flesh to unsuspecting audience members and crew on a television show watched by millions of people every single day. The performance wasn't on camera. The performance was making people consume something without knowing what it was, and then watching them smile, watching them thank her, watching them ask for more. That is not the behavior of someone who views other human beings as equals. That is the behavior of someone who views other people as food. Now, we need to talk about Anne Heche, because this is the part of the story that connects everything: the relationship, the alleged abuse, the crash, and the documentary that someone is apparently still trying to finish. Anne Heche and Ellen DeGeneres were one of Hollywood's most famous couples in the late 90s, openly gay at a time when that was genuinely career-threatening. On every magazine cover, celebrated, scrutinized, and eventually devastatingly separated under circumstances that were never fully explained. And then Anne Heche died in a car crash in 2022, a crash the whole world watched happen in real time. And according to witness accounts that have been circulating since her death, Anne was working on something before she died, a documentary called Children of the Machine, about child trafficking, about abuse rings, about how the biggest names in Hollywood protect each other.
We didn't stop. The team's still on the ground, finishing it, making sure it drops no matter what. She didn't go through hell for nothing.
She didn't go through hell for nothing. What hell? And according to the same whistleblower accounts, that hell started during her relationship with Ellen. But that's not the language of a relationship. That's the language of consumption. And according to the testimony, when Anne started pushing back, started asking questions, started wanting out, things escalated in ways that are genuinely disturbing to even recount. Blood. Tissue. The language of consumption applied to a real human being who allegedly trusted someone and then tried to leave. And then she died in a car crash, right as she was allegedly working on a documentary designed to expose trafficking networks connected to the same people whose names appear in the Epstein files. Coincidence? Maybe. But the timing is something that deserves to be asked about now. Let's zoom out. Because this is where everything Ricky Gervais spent years saying from that Golden Globe stage starts to look less like comedy and more like a roadmap. Ellen DeGeneres is currently in the UK. She left America in late 2024. The official reason? Politics. Discomfort with Donald Trump's re-election, but here's what doesn't add up. Ellen DeGeneres is worth an estimated $450 million. She has lived through multiple political cycles. She has survived controversies that would have ended most careers. She is not a fragile person. She is not someone who runs from discomfort, so why now? Why this specific moment? Why rural England? Not Paris, not London proper, not a highly connected international city where she could maintain her network, but rural England. Remote, quiet, out of sight.
Ellen didn't flee America because of Trump. She fled because she knew that he would release the file.
The Epstein files dropped in January 2026. Ellen left in late 2024. She was ahead of it, and she's not alone. Tom Hanks. Radio silence. Cancelled appearances. His team advising him to stay away from any event where the public could ask him questions directly.
Hanks' entire team advised him to not attend these events in light of his recent comments about Trump and the DOJ after releasing over 3 million Epstein files. Now, the strategy for now is to essentially hide from fans.
Oprah Winfrey, suddenly very comfortable staying out of the public eye. The woman who championed John of God, later convicted of running a global baby trafficking operation and handed nearly 400 years in prison. Richard Gere selling his Connecticut compound at a loss. Eva Longoria slashing the price on her Beverly Hills mansion. Rosie O'Donnell moving to Ireland and saying she will never return to the United States. Something is chasing them. And Ricky Gervais standing on that stage year after year, firing shots disguised as punchlines, knew exactly what that something was. He wasn't doing comedy. He was doing something far more dangerous. He was telling the truth in a room full of people who had built entire careers on making sure that truth never got out.
It's so twisted, it's so disgusting. And everybody wants to think, thank God that's not happening now.
That might have been happening now, not in history, not in ancient civilizations, now. In the buildings we recognize, in the shows we watched, in the faces we trusted. Ellen DeGeneres built a 20-year career on the message of kindness. She told us to be kind every single day. She danced on a stage and interviewed celebrities and gave away cars and made America feel warm. And behind that smile, if the researchers are right, if the whistleblower accounts hold, if Ricky Gervais was exposing what he clearly believed he was exposing, behind that smile was something that the human mind struggles to even process. Now, to be absolutely clear, Ellen DeGeneres has never been charged with any crime related to these allegations. The accounts circulating are testimonies, witness statements, and theories built from documented patterns and connections. They are not proven in a court of law. But here's what we also know. The government is still sitting on an estimated 2 million Epstein documents that have not been released. Not to the public, not even to most members of Congress. What's in those 2 million pages? We don't know yet. But what we found in the first 3 million shook the entire world. And the story is far from over.
I'm saying that there are people that were the people that did this to both me and Corey that are still working, they're still out there, and they're some of the richest, most powerful people in this business.
Still working, still powerful, still protected, until someone stands up and says the quiet part loud. And that's exactly what Ricky Gervais did. He used comedy to slip the truth right past the system before anyone even realized what just happened. Ellen DeGeneres, the files, the dumplings, the rituals, the flight to England, the connections to Epstein, to Diddy, to a network that allegedly operated on one principle above all others, shared complicity in something so extreme that no one would ever speak out. Ricky Gervais exposed it. He exposed her. And the room went silent. The files are still dropping. 70 to 80% of the documents are still sealed. What's already out has sent celebrities scrambling across continents. Imagine what's still coming. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Ricky Gervais knew exactly who he was calling out? And which name do you think is going to be the biggest reveal when those files fully open? Subscribe, because this story is not over, not even close.